Good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to discuss about glycemic index, which is one of the hallmark for tracking our blood sugar responses, and even one of the condition which we consider one of the biomarker which we consider when we are pre-diabetic or developing type 2 diabetes, right? So what exactly is glycemic index, right? So is it a flawed concept or is it the right biomarker? Let us decode that, right? So again, glycemic index is one of the most oldest way of in understanding how a food would, whether a food is going to spike our blood sugar level or not, right? And the thing is, this concept assumes that every individual will react to a food in the same way, which exactly is wrong, right? So different individuals would respond to different foods differently based on their unique biochemical individuality, right? When we have high blood sugar level which comes under HbA1c or blood glucose levels, our doctors or healthcare practitioner would say have food which are low in GI, have food which are avoid food which are high in GI, right? But that this is a biggest normal, right? A lot of, because we know that I'm not going to repeat this, but we know that uh, microbes outnumber human genes by 150 to 1, right? So you know so we in fact we are 99% microbial, so our human body has 25,000 genes. Microbe expresses around 25 million genes, right? So essentially we are at best 1% human, at worst 0.1% human, right? So essentially a lot of these microbes actually metabolize a lot of the molecular ingredients in the food we eat and convert them into good stuff or bad stuff, right? So that impacts our uh, glycemic response. So what we really need to consider is our glycemic response, our blood sugar response. So if you are eating a food, for instance, apple, whether it's going to spike my blood sugar or not, it will be so the impact of apple on my blood sugar level would be entirely different from from yours, right? So essentially we need to understand how the microbiome are interacting with the food we are eating, and whether they are actually uh, impacting our blood sugar response or not, right? So see this example, right? Two people, so John's glycemic response to banana is pretty high, right, vis-a-vis watermelon, while it's opposite for Matthew, right? So essentially uh, it all depends upon how your microbiome interacts with the food you eat. So again, so if we are, carving out a nutrition diet based on our blood works or on diagnostic tests, right? Or maybe even, considering CGM machines, we are just doing a guesswork, right? Because first thing is, blood sugar. So if you have a high HbA1c level, the blood sugar level is high, but you don't know why it is. So you may assume that, okay, let's have, uh, you know, uh, foods which are low in GI, and avoid food which are high in GI, and then but still your blood sugar level keeps on fluctuating, right? So again, so these are just guesswork. Or even if you're taking high protein diets, it's not necessary that high protein diet is going to stop your blood sugar level escalation, right? So for instance, proteins such as histidine, right, which produces a byproduct enzyme propionate, can actually impact your insulin sensitivity levels at molecular level, right? So we really need to understand what molecules are being produced by a microbiome, and what and how these molecules are impacting your blood sugar response, right? So if someone has type 2 diabetes, it doesn't develop overnight, right? So it developed 10-15 years back, right? So gut when your gut microbiome is imbalanced, creates a situation where first your fasting insulin goes up, then your fasting glucose goes up, and then your HbA1c goes up, right? So we are actually, if you are tracking your HbA1c, or probably you are pre-diabetic or have type 2 diabetes, it's the last stage of metabolic syndrome, right? So essentially the focus should be on preventing the fasting insulin from spiking at first place, right? Not tracking the HbA1c level, which is not going to help, because HbA1c again is the third stage, is the final stage. So we just end up, suppressing our blood sugar level, not curing diabetes. So any company who's saying, we have made you off medicines, or we have suppressed your HbA1c level, you have, and we have reduced your or reversed your diabetes, that is all, sham claims. That's all obscure claims, right? It doesn't work like that, right? So you are not relieved of HbA1. You're not relieved of your diabetes, right? So consider, if your HbA1c is even higher than 6, probably you will never reverse diabetes, right? Uh, that's again a research paper which shows the, uh, so this research was done on 1002 twins, right? And if we go by genetic theory, or if we go by, GI model, right, every individual would respond to this food in the same way. So this research found that, even twins responded to food. The postprandial glycemic response of the food was entirely different between twins, right? So essentially, this is one of the research paper which was published in 2020, right? I'll share the link. Probably if you want, you can even have a look at it, right? So again, this also tells that there's nothing called a standard dietary interventions, or a low carb diet, or a high protein diet, which is going to help you manage or reverse diabetes, right? So this is where we come in. So, unlike a lot of, other companies, or healthcare practitioners who just, uh, focus on giving diet based on blood work, or some questionnaire, or CGM, or blah blah blah, right? So our model is entirely data driven. We are in our business, health is three components: biology plus chemistry plus mathematics, right? So when we sequence your microbiome, we are actually analyzing your stool, saliva, or stool for gut, saliva for oral, and vaginal swab for vagina microbiome, right? So we analyze your sample to measure your biochemical activities, right? And again, the data, the huge million of data sets which obtained, right, again combined with the phenotype form to convert into various biological pathways, so we can tell you the production of various metabolites, what is being produced by your microbiome, right? And so essentially what we do next is we apply a mathematical model to analyze these biological pathways, to tell, what is the activity level, or what is the level of metabolites being produced, what is the, so whether metabolite is pro-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory, right? Whether there's a pro-inflammatory functions going on, or too little of anti-inflammatory functions going on, right? And then we actually, map these pathways with various molecules, in food. So essentially it's entirely a machine learning model which we have built, right? So we map these molecules with the scores, and we determine, okay, if I'm going to suppose, if I'm going to give you this a particular molecule, is it going to be converted into beneficial compounds, or harmful things? For instance, if I'm going to give you choline, which can easily be found in a lot of pulses and rajma and a lot of chicken also, right? So choline, if you have a lot of proteobacteria active, they can convert choline into TMA, which can go through liver, gets converted to TMAO, which can increase your risk of heart disease, right? So essentially we can tell you what is the level of TMAO, right? Similarly, we map these molecules with various pathways to determine what molecules should be fed to your microbiome, so that they promote, anti-inflammatory activities or beneficial stuff, right? And what molecules should not be given to your microbiome, so that, it prevents inflammation, right? So now we map these molecules with various foods. For instance, if you have a lot of beneficial stuff, lot of antioxidants in things like, cabbage and broccoli, right? But if your bacteria sulfate reducing activity of sulfate reducing bacteria is pretty low, so foods such as cabbage or broccoli may come in your superfood list, right? But if suppose I'm giving you things like spinach is, high in vitamin E, vitamin B12, vitamin K, but it also have oxalate. So if your microbiome cannot neutralize the oxalate, so there's a conflict again. So spinach may come in a word list. And how do I make sure that you get vitamin D and vitamin B12? So essentially, I'll swap spinach with some other foods again, which would give you the right nutrients. So even if that's not happening, so probably then I'll be giving you recommending you supplements to meet your vitamin D or vitamin B12 needs, right? So again, this is not something a human being can do, right? So no nutritionist or no biotechnologist can do. It's entirely data driven, machine learned models which we have built in house, right? So there's no room for any error. It's all precise, all precision based on your biology, your biochemistry, your biochemical reactions which we have decoded through sequencing of your microbiome, right? So again, these all things tells you clearly that our microbiome impacts our glycemic response, right? Glycemic index is something not to be considered, right? Or very scarcely considered when it comes to understanding our blood sugar response, right? So again, CGM machines also track your blood glucose level at plasma level, right? So it actually track meals. So you will not say I'll first eat right, I'll then eat rajma, then eat sabji, then eat pickle or curd, right? So essentially it assumes that only carbohydrates can spike your blood sugar level, right? So again, CGM again is another version of guesswork, right? So again, there are certain molecular interactions which happens at the body which can impact your insulin sensitivity without impacting your blood sugar level at plasma level, right? For instance, oxalate or if you have a suboptimal oxalate, things such as almond which are high in oxalate can trigger insulin resistance if your LPS production is high, right? So there's very complex thing. So what we have built now is an prediction model which covers 15 microbial pathway scores, decoding the activities of microbes at a molecular level, right? So we not only see whether a food or a molecule, if I feed your microbiome, that is going to release a pathway or a metabolite which is going to impact your insulin sensitivity. We also see how a food, if it is combined with other foods, right? Whether, for instance, rice may not spike your or potato may not spike your blood sugar level, but if it's combined with other foods, right, it may lead to blood sugar spike. So we see the combination of one food with other foods and the impact on insulin levels, right? We also see certain metabolites which actually can certain metabolites which are basically amino acids can somewhere impact your insulin sensitivity at a molecular level. For instance, as I mentioned about histidine release enzyme propionate, which can actually uh, dysregulate your insulin sensitivity, or tryptophan converted into indoxyl sulfate, or triosine alanine phenylalanine can be converted into picresol, which can elevate your blood glucose levels, right? So what we have developed our prediction model based on a machine learning model which we have built, so we can find out whether a food or a combination of food can spike your insulin blood sugar, blood glucose level even before you consume it, right? So you can find out whether potato is going to spike my blood sugar level or not even before you consume it, or probably whether rajma or any protein is going to disrupt my insulin sensitivity even before you consume, right? So you really don't need a CGM machine to track your glucose response to foods, right? You really need to know what molecules are going to spike my blood sugar level, right? And what are not going to before I eat it, so that you don't even get into a guesswork thing. It's all precise. So we are launching this, in the month of August, and just before I sign up, right? So just before I sign off, so essentially we are doing a webinar tomorrow at 6 p.m. where we'll be unboxing our entire way of how we decode your molecular functions and how we arrive at your nutrition interventions using machine learning models, right? And also I'll also share more of about what microbial or pathways or biological pathways or metabolites we look at when we are trying to predict your glucose response to various foods, right? So that's it for today. Have a great day ahead. Yeah, thank you.